Sheila, why don't we switch to the, well, I guess we can call it the hiking ban. You know, folks, remember that old song? If you go into the woods today, you're in for a big surprise. I'll say, how about $28,000 in fines just for hiking through the forest? And look, we see New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt.
It's expanding. So this is the newly elected Liberal in New Brunswick. She was just elected this spring, Susan Holt. She joins in the climate lockdown bandwagon. And look, I'm anti-burning down the forest. I'm a conservationist, and I believe that involves conserving the forests from catastrophic forest fire. But there are ways to do that without actually kicking everybody out of the forest, like fishing is not going to cause a fire. If you ban the things that are not intrinsically safe, like cooking, smoking in the forest, having fires, riding ATVs. But I don't think having people in the forest is going to cause a fire unless their shoes are causing the fire and causing the lightning. And I know there are some conservatives who disagree with me on this, but I would venture to guess that I spend a little bit more time in nature than a lot of people. So I think I have I'll say that I have some level of expertise that some of the commenters don't have.
Well, Sheila, I pray that you're not inferring that Premier Houston in Nova Scotia is a conservative. He's about as conservative as Doug Ford.
I'll allow him to make those inferences. I have inferred to the contrary. But here's Susan Holt. We know she's no conservative, locking down the forests there too.
All right, so why don't we see what she has to say, and I'll pick it up on the other side.
All New Brunswickers to get out of the woods and to stay out of the woods. I know that New Brunswickers care deeply for their neighbors and are passionate about our woods and our forest and our beautiful natural environment. And right now, we need you to show that passion and care for your neighbors and for our forests by taking action to protect this province and its people. We're asking you to think about your actions and choose to keep each other safe. It's crucial. Your support and New Brunswickers' action in this is crucial to keeping our wildfire teams focused on the fires that exist today and not adding to the problem. We need to allow our teams to do what they're doing now and not strain our resources further.
So to give you a background in terms of the current situation is that all fires are considered under control with the exception of the Miramichi area with a fire known right now as the Oldfield Road Fire. It is considered a Class 6 intensity fire, which means it is beyond control with our resources. There will be restrictions on Crown land effective 12:01 this evening that include prohibitions on hiking, camping, fishing. The use of vehicles in the woods are not permitted. Trail systems through the woods are off limits. Camping is allowed only in campgrounds, but the public is being asked to consider their camping plans until such time that the forest risk decreases. We are asking private landowners to take the same precautions to protect their land, their homes, and their communities.
I recognize all the New Brunswickers who have already changed their plans. You've capped your fire pit, you've canceled a trip, and you've made sacrifices for the good of our province. And I know it sucks. Right now, we are really hoping that at the end of all this, we will have issued 0 fines, because New Brunswickers will have seen the risk to their neighbors, the risk to our emergency response systems, and they will have chosen to go to the beach, to go downtown, to get an ice cream, a cold beverage, and support our local entrepreneurs. And we hope to not have to issue any fines for people who choose not to adhere to the ban to access to Crown lands. There are existing fines in place as detailed in the Forest Act. But right now, we know that New Brunswickers are good at looking out for each other. We know that New Brunswickers want to protect our woods and forests and want to make sure that they're there for generations to come to enjoy. Should that change, then we'll revisit the question of fines.
You know, Sheila, the first thing that springs to mind is that last sentence she said when she mentioned that New Brunswickers are good for looking out for each other. That's code speak for, if you want to snitch on your neighbor, oh, please do. We'll reward you. You know, it's incredible. Last time I was in New Brunswick, which was last summer, Sheila, with Lincoln J., it was to visit a Catholic church that by a miracle, and this was one of the most beautiful Catholic churches I've seen in our Dominion, in a tiny little village. It is the predominant piece of architecture out there. Somebody tried to burn it to the ground for some reason. Like I said, maybe a miracle. It did not catch. Nobody gave a rodent's rectum about this. Well, except us at Rebel News. We flew out there to cover this. And like you said in the beginning, I get it. You want to ban campfires, you want to ban smoking, you want to ban even motorized vehicles in case a spark is created. I am on side in these days of very hot weather and dry conditions. However, a hiker doing none of those is not any kind of danger to creating a forest fire, Sheila. And by the way, I thought these forest fires weren't being created by arsonists and firebugs. It's climate change. You know, it's man-made carbon going up into the atmosphere. So when you think of it, it's useless to ban Joe and Jane from going for a hike in the forest. What say you, Sheila?
You know, I see some people with whom I agree on many, many, many things. And I'm doing my best not to be snide or snarky to the people on the other side of this, because I know, like, one of my favorite conservatives, Rick Perkins, he's on the other side of this than me. One of my favorite climate realists, Michelle Sterling, she's on the other side of this than me. So I'm trying to be ecumenical as possible on this. But when we have people, like Ryan Garrettson points out, deliberately setting 30 fires and only getting 200 hours of community service versus like a $25,000 or $28,000 fine for just going in the woods, not setting a fire, not even doing anything dangerous, just going in the woods. Houston, we have a problem. And I think Sean Speer really points this out. So Sean Speer, he writes for The Hub, and you know, usually The Hub's pretty milquetoast on a lot of things. I find them not quite to be edgy enough for me. But he says, the issue isn't whether forest fires are bad, or even whether banning people from entering the forest will decrease their probability. The answer, of course, is yes to both. Okay, so he's conceded that. Using that logic, though, the government would be justified to ban all sorts of activities that come with risks and trade-offs. The issue at hand is whether the rights infringement, which the forest fire ban plainly is reasonable, proportionate, and minimally impaired. That's it. And given that it extends province-wide, lasts for 2.5 months, and comes with a punitive fine, it's hard to conclude that it is. More generally, the whole conversation seems like a microcosm of the sorry state of Canadian constitutionalism. Just because a policy outcome may be good or even desirable doesn't mean we get to dismiss the charter in some cases or manufacture rights in others. And that's really what it comes down to. Did locking people in their homes stop the spread of COVID? I would say no. Some people might say yes. But regardless, locking people in their homes is an undue infringement of their charter rights. And just because there's risk associated in it or a good outcome doesn't mean that you're allowed to do it. That's it.
100%. And there's one other point I want to make, Sheila, and that is I liken this to our obsession with handgun bans to reduce violent crime. Because the presumption is that if the gangbangers are told it's illegal to have a handgun, well, that's going to just shut down the gangs, isn't it? I mean, can you imagine that, Sheila? I mean, by definition, if you're a gangbanger, you habitually break the law, including gun legislation laws. And where I'm going with this is, yes, there are arsonists and fire bugs out there. They do get their jollies going to abandoned buildings, and yes, even into the forest under ideal conditions to set a fire. They are sick and malicious, and they need the book thrown at them. But do you think an arsonist is going to hear on the news, you're not allowed into the woods? Oh, well, geez, I'll have to get my jollies elsewhere. I can't set a fire.
Arson is illegal already. It's like that, arson is already illegal. So what is the point in all of this? People who start forest fires, throw the absolute book at them. Make them financially responsible for the costs of fighting the fire. But don't keep the people who love the forest out of the forest. They're not going to be the ones spotting the fires.
Thank you, Sheila.
The fires.
That was what I was leading up to in terms of lose-lose, because the ethical, moral campers and hikers that are obeying the do not burn rule, they're also the eyes and ears for those who are committing shenanigans, those who are leaving a campfire burning, those who, God forbid, are intentionally trying to start a forest fire. You've taken away like the centuries to call out the bad behavior. How does that help the forest fire situation?
Exactly. I mean, it just doesn't. I mean, we're the ones cleaning up the garbage on the trails. We're the ones clearing the trails, by the way. Yeah. Like in some of these forested areas, who's clearing away the deadfall to keep the trails open for everybody? It's the people who use the trails. It's the quadders. It's the snowmobilers, the hiking groups, the people running the poker rallies. They're the ones doing it for free, by the way. And you're just kicking all those people out.
Sheila, you forgot a group there based on my almost 3 weeks in Ottawa during the Freedom Convoy, and that was the Freedom Convoy demonstrators who were habitually cleaning up the litter, including picking up little cigarette butts that were invisible in the snow, but downtown Ottawa never looked cleaner.
Yeah. Well, isn't everything sold to us in pursuit of the greater good? And actually, Lisa Raitt, who is one of those very, very red Tories, she was on More in the Morning talking about her fellow Nova Scotians. Anyways, she's at least honest in what she says here. So maybe we can listen to that, and then we'll get to the last couple of chats, and then we'll wrap the show.
Please.
I'm going to quote my friend Fred Delory from Nova Scotia, who wrote on social media that the voices for those who are complaining about this the most are louder the farther away they get from the smoke. And that is true. Because listen, I have a summer place in Cape Breton, and I was there earlier this summer, and my son is there now, and everyone's terrified. It is a tinderbox in Nova Scotia. They are very supportive of what Tim Houston is doing. At the end of the day, politicians, they actually have to answer to their constituents, and their constituents are not upset about this because they can recognize wells are drying up, people are terrified. Mowing your lawn can start a fire, for goodness sake. So this is okay. It's draconian, but it is definitely, I think, within the realm of having to do something for the sake of a greater good. Because if that place goes up in smoke, you can burn the whole place down. It's that dry. I'm going to quote my friend.
Okay, so Fred Delory, another Tory who has really come out in favor of this climate lockdown. But Lisa Raitt at least is honest. I think she's fundamentally wrong because your rights are for when it's difficult, not when it's easy, right? And at least she's honest when she admits this is draconian, and the reason they're doing it is for the greater good. Now, you shouldn't do when things are draconian. That's when you're like, actually, we shouldn't do this. That's when you're like, wait a minute, that's wrong. And all these draconian infringements on your rights are sold in the interest of the greater good. Your rights are not supposed to be sacrificed in chasing some sort of greater good. But as an Albertan, this falls out, like when she says the voices against this are further away from the smoke. The guy lives there, okay? So no, but also are you just saying that us Albertans who are also against this, because we don't have to, like, it's constantly forest fire season here. And if it's not forest fire season here, it's grass fire season. And they have come very, very close to my home. Well sites this year had to be abandoned because of fires where people in my family work. So it's not like we are unfamiliar with this stuff, but we figure out a way to work and use the land despite the forest fire risk. Like, I'm a farmer. To say that I don't care about forest fires because I'm far away from the smoke, are you crazy, lady? Like, a grass fire could destroy everything I have like that. But to say that I don't get to use my land because of the fire risk, because I would be somehow more careless than some government forestry worker, is outrageous to me.
Well, Sheila, two things. As Lisa Raitt droned on, I couldn't help but experience deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra would say. And that was to say, this is the language we heard on a frequent basis during COVID, wasn't it?
Precisely.
Yeah.
Stay home. Yeah, it's a stay out of church. Yeah, it's a violation of your charter rights. But it's for the greater good. And then at the end of the day, we're like, what greater good?
And the second thing, Sheila, is how out of touch Lisa Raitt is in the here and now in Canada. I have a summer place in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
Really? Hey, Lisa, have you noticed how many Canadians are going into personal bankruptcy? Have you noticed how many mortgages are being defaulted? I was just in Windsor yesterday, 11.2% unemployment. I believe that's the highest stat of unemployment since they started collecting these stats. And you're worried about your summer home? At least you have another home to go to. And I just found that really jarring, Sheila.
What I found outrageous was when she brings up, oh, well, we have a summer place. And it's like, well, the people who don't have a summer place, they put on their hiking shoes and they walk around in the forest because it's free.
Yeah.
Because it's cheap. Because that's their way of doing something enjoyable, because they don't have a patio at a summer house to sit on. This is how they experience nature. They can't afford to experience the nature that you do in your summer home, like Doug Ford going to his cottage but telling everybody else to stay away from their cottage.
I remember that.
Yeah, like it's so out of touch. Times are tough. Money is tight. Going into nature is a free way that people get to experience relaxation outside of the worries perpetuated on us by this government. And yet we're being told we're irresponsible, but some government forestry worker knows better than you.
It's amazing. If Lisa Raitt and Aaron O'Toole ever become single, boy, there is a power couple in terms of fake conservatives in Canada. I mean, they're practically bona fide liberals at this stage,
oh, yeah,
Sheila.
I remember why.
Anyways, do we have any more super
she's
chats?
So good, and then
oh, sorry.
Yeah, we have a couple. Yeah,
okay.
Sometimes Lisa Raitt is so good, and then sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, now I remember.